Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If becoming a mangaka in One Piece world. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 791, Sabo's Blood Family. Chapter's Events. Sabo? Sabo. It's really you. Wait right there. You're alive? I can't believe it. At that moment, a nobleman was shocked to see Sabo. The man was middle-aged, sporting a thin mustache and dressed in an elegant and formal outfit. You have to come back home. Sabo ignored the man and kept running with Luffy and Ace. Ace then called out to Sabo. Hey, Sabo. Someone's calling for you. Who is that guy? Even Luffy, with his mouth full, was distracted by the sudden interruption. What? I'm not hiding anything. Oh. Really? Luffy almost believed Sabo, but Ace quickly intervened. Don't be stupid, of course, he is. Let's hear it, Sabo. We shouldn't have to keep any secrets from each other, now, should we? Spill it. Ace and Luffy spoke in unison, pressing Sabo for answers. Just tell us already, you idiot. I'll kick your face in. Garg. Ah. Of. All right. I'll talk. After Ace and Luffy nearly lost their patience, Sabo finally decided to tell them the truth. The son of a noble? Who is? I am. Sabo replied. So? Both Ace and Luffy nonchalantly picked their noses, as if wondering what the big deal was. You're the ones who wanted to know. Sabo snapped. The truth is, both of my real parents are still out there. I'm not a real orphan. And I wasn't born on the trash heap, either. The man who was trying to stop me just now was my father. This exact scene left both Outlook 3 and Did It utterly shocked. They couldn't believe that the Sabo from the manga was truly their son. The truth was overwhelming. What made things even worse were the judgmental glares from the surrounding crowd, eyes filled with disdain. Dear, should we leave? I no longer feel comfortable here. Did It whispered after noticing the people glaring at them with contempt. From time to time, she overheard comments like, how could a mother treat her child like that, and they have an amazing child like Sabo, yet treat him like a dog? What's wrong with these nobles? Why are they all so despicable? That noble's ambition is outrageous. He wants to use his son to secure the kingdom's throne by marrying him to the princess, someone else muttered. The last comment made Outlook 3 break out into a cold sweat. Outlook 3 was still trying to process the shocking truth that had just been revealed in the manga. Sabo had openly admitted that he was his biological son. After Sabo's confession, flashbacks showed how Outlook 3 and his wife treated him as a child. These were Sabo's memories, explaining why he chose to run away and live in the trash heap rather than the elite district, without any regrets. In Sabo's memories, it was revealed how his parents wanted him to study hard and grow into the perfect partner for the princess. His mother even scolded him when he clashed with a noble from the royal family and rushed to check on the noble's child instead of her own. Sabo described how they didn't care for him as their son but rather treated him like an investment project. These flashbacks made the readers who recognized them despise Sabo's parents instantly. Why should we leave, my dear? This art store is the safest place in the world. No one can harm us here. Outlook 3 spoke confidently. Despite being 10 years younger than his manga counterpart, he had already been a noble for many years and trusted his decisions. But in truth, he never expected to witness such a day in his life. The day when his life would be intertwined with the One Piece manga. Knowing his opportunistic personality and his wife's similar nature, he quickly realized that they wouldn't receive an ounce of sympathy unless they adopted a new approach. At that moment, he began speaking loudly, ensuring that the nearby readers could hear him. My dear, it seems we are truly blessed from above. The child you're carrying in your belly is Sabo. We've been given a chance to witness the mistakes of our future selves and correct them before they happen. Rob-sama has given us another opportunity to truly understand ourselves. In this life, our son Sabo will grow up in a loving family. I will not let my son live among the garbage. Just shut up. One of the readers interrupted Outlook 3's nonsense. Sending him to live with Dayton would be the best thing you could do for him, you scum, another reader chimed in. Not having him at all would be better than him living with you, added yet another reader. Not far away, in his private section, Rob, who had recently arrived, observed the scene quietly, smiling like a hawk waiting for the perfect moment to strike. What do you think is the role of a good mangaka, my dear? He asked. In his lap, Robin wore the same smile as her father on her cute face. Tarashishi, no doubt my father is planning something big again. Robin laughed sweetly, fully aware of her father's abilities and the extent of his powers. If her father told her he was a god, she would believe him without hesitation. This may be rude to say, but I was always alone, even though I had parents. As Sabo said this, he remembered his father's words. Don't you ever go near that trash heap. The people living there aren't human. They're just pieces of trash in human form. These words made it clear to Sabo what his parents were truly like. The nobles always scorned and despised the trash heap. But compared to that horrible elite district, where I didn't even have room to breathe, where my entire life was planned out for me, I'd choose the trash heap any day. After saying that, Sabo stood up and smiled at Ace and Luffy. So that's the deal, huh? Ace finally understood the whole situation. Ace. Luffy. We have to make it out to sea someday. We'll leave this country behind. And gain our freedom. Sabo clenched his fists, expressing his dream with joy. I want to see the world in all its glory and write a book about all the things I discover. If it's sailing I need to study, then I don't care how hard I have to work. We've got to get stronger and become real pirates. Far away from the East Blue, in the South Blue, specifically in Batarilla, Rouge gently touched the face of a smiling Sabo as he expressed his dream. As he spoke about how his biological parents treated him, the heartbreaking sadness was evident on his face. Rob's artistic skills far surpassed Oda's, especially when it came to drawing expressions. The manga was also colored and larger in size than the original, featuring numerous effects that could turn it into a moving video if the pages were flipped quickly. In short, these scenes managed to reach the deepest part of Rouge's heart. They don't deserve a child like this. I wish he were my son. She knew it was a wish that could never come true, but just imagining it made her happy. If Ace, Sabo, and even Luffy were her real children, she would be willing to sacrifice her life 3 times over for all of them. At least I'm happy that my counterpart showed the world what it truly means to be a real mother. Not every mother can be called a true mother. Just looking at Didit, Sabo's biological mother, made Rouge want to hit her. In the art store in Batarilla, Roger shared his wife's feelings at that moment. But his usual grin never left his face. Sake cups, huh? So that's how my son got his brothers? Wahahaha. How interesting. Chapter 792, Each of Their Dreams. Luffy's Mysterious Dream. Ace's smile reflected in Roger's eyes, full of longing, as he heard Sabo's dream at that moment. Immediately afterward, it was Ace's turn to speak about his own dream. I'm going to become a pirate, defeat every last person who stands in my way, and earn the kind of glory that dreams are made of. Only then will my life have meaning. I don't care if the whole world refuses to accept me. They can hate me all they want. I'll become a great pirate and prove I'm better than all of them. I won't run from anyone. I'll never lose. I don't care if they're terrified of me. I'm going to make sure the whole world knows my name. With each word Ace spoke, anticipation, joy, sorrow, and despair filled Roger's heart. I see. You've already fulfilled your dream, haven't you, my son? Roger took a big sip of sake this time, gazing into Ace's true dream, which didn't mention wanting to become the pirate king or anything of the sort. You wanted to be a pirate, and you became a great one. You wanted to defeat every opponent who stood before you, and you did, until your very last breath. You sought to earn the glory you dreamed of, and you've done just that. The world rejected you, and they surely hated you, but you didn't care, and you became a great pirate, proving your worth to exist in this world despite them. You never wanted to run away from anyone, and you never did, though I wish you had my little boy. At last, the tears that had been welling up for so long spilled from Roger's eyes, like a dam that had finally broken. For the first time, the crew of Roger witnessed their captain cry. And not just a tear, but an outpouring of grief. Roger was the pirate king. The king of all pirates in the world. But in that moment, he was just a father mourning his son's soul. Seeing this, Shank's heart ached, and even Buggy looked pained. Rayleigh and Gabon both sighed deeply, feeling the sorrow from the depths of their hearts. I thought your dream would be much bigger than this. But it turns out you didn't want to steal your brother's dream, did you? You really were a kind-hearted child. Roger wiped his tears as he gazed at Ace's smiling face in the manga. It seemed he had finally learned how to truly be a father. Chapter's events. Underscore 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 underscore. Shishishi. All right. Well, then. Now that both Sabo and Ace had shared their dreams before the vast ocean, Luffy couldn't just stand idly by. He stepped forward, almost as if he were embracing the sea. I'm gonna. Luffy shouted his bizarre, unusual dream at the top of his lungs. This time, he revealed his true dream, rather than becoming Pirate King, which turned out to be just the stepping stone toward fulfilling his actual ambition. Ha! As expected, Luffy's words left Sabo and Ace with shocked expressions. Ah ha 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 ha! Luffy laughed. Of all the things you could have said, Ace muttered, bewildered. Ah ha 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 ha! Man, you're one crazy guy. You're definitely someone worth keeping an eye on, that's for sure. Sabo clutched his stomach and laughed like there was no tomorrow. I want to know what Luffy's dream is. Shanks was frustrated, feeling as though the author had deliberately skipped over the reveal and didn't want to share it. Wahahaha. I bet your future counterpart already knows it, or he wouldn't have given him the straw hat. Roger laughed as he spoke. Huh, are you saying it might be like your ridiculous dream, Captain? Shanks clicked his tongue with a sly grin. So now my dream's ridiculous, is it? Wahahaha. Considering I couldn't achieve it in the end, you're right. It was a silly dream. Roger chuckled as he remembered that day at Laughtail, the day he had laughed at the childish nature of his own dream for the first time. The day he realized that his dream could only be fulfilled by one specific person. Sadly, it wasn't him on that day. Could it really be that your dream, Captain, is the same as Luffy's mysterious dream? Buggy asked, astonished. Rayleigh, Gabon, Nosden, and the others smiled. They all knew about their captain's foolish dream. If Luffy were to dream of something strange, it would certainly be like Roger's dream. What's wrong with that? Everyone's entitled to their own dreams. Blackbeard once said something wise. People's dreams never end. And that's absolutely true. There are no limits to what people can dream of. Don't laugh at anyone's dream, especially those with the will of kings. That was a precious piece of advice from the captain. What is Luffy's dream, Dad? Back on Dawn Island, Robin asked with confusion, seeing Luffy speak without words. Do you really want to know? Rob turned his gaze from the couple, Sabo's biological parents, to Robin, who was in his arms. Of course, I want to know. Robin lightly hit her father's chest with both hands. Well, when your father knows too, he'll definitely tell you. Rob patted Robin's head, who was puzzled at that moment, and then looked back at the couple. Well, maybe the time has come. Rob stepped out of his personal space and slowly made his way toward the couple. The store goddesses in his path bowed with great respect, their eyes filled with awe and admiration. They couldn't see their master every day. Seeing him even once in their lives was a priceless blessing, especially given all the benefits he had bestowed upon them, benefits that couldn't be measured in money. Rob nodded gently to their greetings and motioned for them to continue their work as usual, then continued on his way. Readers were awed by the author's personal appearance, but they continued reading with enjoyment. They really wanted to catch him and force him to reveal Luffy's dream here and now. But could they? Of course, it was a dream. The one dream that no one could dream of, because it was impossible for anyone else to achieve. Only Robin. But even she couldn't, for her father himself didn't know what Luffy's true dream was yet. Was I a bad father, Queen? On Urura Island, Kaido was heavily drunk, tears streaming from his eyes as he asked this question. You're asking a bad parent, Kaido-san. I also abandoned my child at one point in my life. TSK. I wasn't a bad father. I wanted to make Yamato strong. She wouldn't be strong if she didn't live a hard life. What made me strong, huh? Do you think it's because my race has tough bodies? Rubbish. What made me strong was the hardship I went through. My parents abandoned me too. The hard life I lived shaped my strength. But I didn't abandon her. I was nurturing her from afar. Yui. I miss my Yamato. Will Rob give her back to me if I ask? Kaido didn't know why, but Seibo's story about his parents had stirred something in him, something that had been buried deep in his heart for a long time. Young Lady Yamato has officially become the daughter of the Sky Sword in a trade deal between you and him, Kaido-san. Getting her back from him is only a dream. This time, King spoke. Chapter 793, The Three Sake Cups. A New Miracle. Chapter Events. Did you guys know? At that moment, Ace pulled out a bottle of booze he had stolen earlier from Dayton's house and 3 empty cups. He began filling them one by one. If you exchange drinks, you can become brothers. Brothers? Really? Luffy's smile widened when he heard that. When we become pirates, we may not end up on the same crew, but the bond of brotherhood we share will never die. Hearing this, Seibo smiled too, as he gazed at the 3 cups. No matter where we are, or what we do. This is a bond we can never break. Ace declared before taking his cup, as did Luffy and Seibo. They shared a toast, saying, starting today, we are brothers. Yeah. From that day onward, they truly became brothers, sharing everything. Ace fiercely protected Luffy from anyone who tried to harm him. They shared baths, meals, and even Garp's love fists. Days and months passed this way, but the smiles on the 3 brothers' faces never faded. Ohara. In this chapter, children of the same age as Luffy, Ace, and Seibo feel overwhelming joy for the trio of brothers. Ha ha ha. This is awesome. They've become better brothers than actual siblings. Look at Ace going wild just because Luffy got hit. What a life, they even share the bath. Look at the happiness on their faces. From the scene where Ace raged at the thugs who beat Luffy, to the scene where the 3 brothers shared a bath at Dayton's house, and then the one where they devoured meat greedily, excluding Dayton from the feast as Luffy shoved her away. There was also a scene where Luffy almost fell off a snow-covered bridge, and Ace and Seibo rushed to catch him. Then came the moment when Makino arrived with Mayor Whoopslap at Dayton's house to help change their clothes, while telling Luffy that his grandfather would return soon. All these moments, which felt like fast-forwarded memories, widened the smiles on the faces of the children and even the adults. Even the adults felt humbled before these kids who managed to defeat tigers and crocodiles several times their size. They felt that this world was only fair when Garp arrived and gave them a lesson immediately afterward, and even the new boy, Seibo, wasn't spared from the fists of love. When Ace, Seibo, and Luffy leave a message for Dayton saying, "We're moving out," readers feel the sadness of Dayton, who, despite her tough demeanor, clearly didn't want them to leave, as she sent Dogra and Magra to check on them. Then there was the scene where they built a treehouse and began their independent life. But sadly, nothing lasts forever. Fusha Village. Little Makino, at 6 years old, smiled broadly as she saw the genuine smiles on the brothers' faces. So my counterpart was part of this story too? Why does Ace look shy around me? He.
Not far away, Camila and Father Mercar gently watched Makino as she enjoyed reading the manga.
I wonder why Dayton hasn't returned yet.
Camila wondered. Ever since Dayton discovered that she herself was Dayton in the manga, she had left for an art store in Amazon Lily and hadn't returned.
She's probably embarrassed to be associated with the Dayton in the manga, Father Mercar replied after a long thought. So what?
I've started liking Dayton in the manga. She seems like a mother to the trio, Camila chuckled before continuing. She wasn't the only one feeling this way, as most readers had begun to feel the same in this chapter. They could tell she was the type to hide her true emotions.
You're right, my dear.
I wonder how she'll react to the events of the Summit War. Considering she was Ace's foster mother, she'll probably break down after what happened.
Father Mercar sighed as he remembered the events of the Summit War. No. Why are they doing this to Sabo?
Suddenly, little Makino's scream caught the attention of the pair, who sighed even more, knowing already what had happened and the reason behind Makino's anger. Not only Makino, but many readers also expressed their anger at this moment.
The only way to ease these feelings was to curse the infamous poster, Sabo's father, on the global forum again. And that's exactly what they did. Do you think life is unfair, my son? Spring is over. It's time to return to your real family.
In the art store of the Green Garden, Outlook 3 and his wife stared at the manga events with indifferent expressions. Well, he was their son, so of course, he would return to them.
He belonged to them. I leave the rest to you, pirates.
By saying this, Outlook 3 implied that the pirates should get rid of Luffy and Ace after taking Sabo.
But of course, sir. You've paid us well, after all.
I'll take care of these urchins. They won't be bothering your dear little boy again.
Blue Jam replied. Hold on a minute. Blue Jam. Father. I give up. I'll do as you say. Sabo, fearing for Luffy and Ace's safety, surrendered. You'll do what, Sabo? Sabo's father asked. Sabo. Stop. Ace exclaimed. I'll do everything you tell me. I'll live my life however you want. Just please, don't harm Ace and Luffy. I'm begging you. They mean more to me than anything.
They're my brothers.
Sabo said. Sabo. Ace shouted. Oi. Where are you going? Get away from those guys. We'll be fine, you hear. We're all going to become free men, aren't we? Are you going to let it end here? Sabo.
Ace's words caused the departing Sabo to cry. Why would he rather live in the trash than move to a life of warmth and wealth?
Sabo's mother, Didit, couldn't understand what her son truly wanted. Why does he want to go to sea, become a pirate, and risk his life? How could we have given birth to such a rebellious child? Shush, they might hear you, they already hate us.
In this day and age, everyone sides with the main characters of the manga, her husband whispered quietly.
We've done nothing wrong with Sabo so far. What's wrong with teaching him to become a king? What's wrong with protecting him from the higher-ranking nobles this way? Both husband and wife were confused.
Everything they had done in the manga seemed perfectly reasonable to them, and they were sure they would do the same again. Otherwise, how would they be different from the commoners who struggled just to fill their bellies? The mistake you made was treating your son as a means to an end, not with love. At that moment, Rob appeared, holding Robin in his arms. His voice was soft, but to the couple, it sounded like the voice of a king addressing his subjects. Outlook 3 and Didit trembled as they recognized the man standing beside them, who had just spoken to them.
Rob-sama. What an immense honor to have you speak to this humble couple.
Outlook 3's face lit up with genuine delight as he quickly pulled his wife beside him, and they both bowed to Rob. Meanwhile, Rob, using the manga artist's eyes, was viewing the world from the perspective of a mangaka. In his eyes, the world had become a huge manga.
The small bump on Didit's belly was proof that she was currently pregnant with Sabo. She must be in her second month. Rob thought with a smile. How about trying that out now?
Rob raised his finger, which was filled with the surreal power of the author. With a simple flick of his finger, the bump on Didit's belly vanished, along with all memories of her pregnancy in her and Outlook 3's minds. With a gesture as if flipping a page, Rob erased the scene before them and replaced it with a beautiful woman with soft pink blonde hair, reclining on a bed like an angel, also reading a manga. All of this was happening in a space beyond reality. This was the power of the mangaka that Rob had relied on to steal the fates of Odin's and Judge's children previously as well. Rouge's belly was also slightly swollen, the same size as Didit's earlier. Just as he had deleted before, this time, Rob added the fetus he had removed from Didit's womb into Rouge's, placing it right beside Ace. In this life, Ace and Sabo are destined to be true brothers, born of the same mother and father. With these words, Rob sealed their fate. Everything returned to normal as the surreal powers of the manga faded at that moment. Hearing Rob's cryptic words, the couple understood nothing. Rob turned and walked away with a satisfied smile on his face, while Robin, in his arms, didn't understand anything either. What had her father just done? Chapter 794, The Grey Terminal Inferno. What did you do, Dad? Little Robin tilted her head to the side comically, and question marks appeared above her head. Rob laughed because he could still see the question marks above her head, thanks to the lingering effects of the mangaka's eye from his previous show. I did something amazing, my dear. It's a shame you couldn't see it, but I'll tell you what I did. However, you have to promise not to tell anyone. It'll be our secret, just between a father and his daughter. Yay! I promise. I won't tell anyone. Little Robin exclaimed, giving Rob a pinky swear. All right, do you see that woman over there? Rob turned and pointed to a couple who were still trembling because of him. You, Sabo's mother, I don't like her, humph. Rob chuckled to himself, finding Robin's cuteness overwhelming, and then continued. She was pregnant with Sabo just a few moments ago, but I used one of my powers to change reality. Now, Sabo has moved to a much safer womb, where he'll grow up with a loving family and live a peaceful life, just like you, my little princess. Rob kissed Robin's forehead with boundless affection after saying that. Hee, I don't really understand, but if Daddy helped Sabo get a nice family, then that's the best thing you've ever done. Robin hugged her father's neck and laughed joyfully. Yes, that's exactly what happened. Now, what do you say we head back to your younger siblings? I bet they've missed us a lot. As he said that, Rob motioned towards Sanji, Reiju, and Hiyori, who had been born just a month earlier. Suddenly, Rouge felt her belly warm up and swell for some reason. Rouge smiled and said, Are you that eager to come out, my dear Ace? Or could you be Anne? No, since this reaction came after I saw Sabo's tears in the manga, you must be Ace. Rouge sighed as she returned her gaze to the last scene of the chapter. She hated that noble who had tormented her children and kept them apart. She wanted to crush him to dust. What she didn't know at that moment was that she was now carrying twins instead of just Ace. Another child had suddenly appeared, forming into a tiny fetus right beside Ace. When she finds out, no one knows how she'll react. She had made a fleeting wish. And unknowingly to her, it came true. That guy is truly vile. I heard he's right now in an art store on Down Island. Why don't we go teach him a lesson? There's no way someone like him should be Sabo's father. Damn him. I heard that too. Those guys over there say that the stench of nobles is unbearable, judging by the comments on his post with his manga picture. At the art store in Ohara, both Enel and Rosinante were eager to find Sabo's father. His wicked nature had been fully revealed in the manga just from the way he threatened his son to falsely accuse Luffy and Ace. Everything was clear. He really is despicable. Fufu, even Doflamingo felt the urge to punch someone. This is outrageous. At that moment, Isho erupted in anger. The reason was what he had just seen in the manga. Chapter's events. Did you know there are inspectors from the world government making their way around East Blue right now? They'll be arriving here in the Goa Kingdom in 3 days' time. On the night Sabo returned home, his adopted brother, Stelly, told him everything. And this time, there are world nobles aboard their ship as well, you know, the Tenryubito, so it's a really big deal. The royals are desperate to win these visitors' favor, so they're planning to burn all the filth in this country to ashes. Without that awful trash heap, this country will be truly pristine. Hearing that, Seibo grabbed Stelly by the collar and shouted. What do you think you're saying? They can't possibly do something like that. Don't you know how many people live out there on that trash heap? They'd all lose their homes. They make their whole damn living off what's in that trash heap. Get off me. Weren't you listening to what I just said? Stelly freed himself from Seibo's grip and repeated with an uncaring expression. They're going to burn all the filth in this country. He means even the people living there are considered filth, doesn't he? Mihawk's eyes narrowed at that moment. In this chapter, his hatred for the nobles deepened, bit by bit, until it reached its peak. Even an 8-year-old kid has this twisted view of life. What kind of world is this we're living in? Isho lost control of his temper at this point. The realization that the Goa kingdom wanted to burn down Grey Terminal and everything on it struck Isho like a lightning bolt. All this just to welcome the celestial dragons. They want to burn anything that might be unpleasant for the celestial dragons to see. That's how nobles and kings around the world have operated for the last 800 years when it comes to those celestial dragons. This time, it was Vegapunk speaking, someone who knew a lot. That's right, One Piece manga has come to expose these disgraceful actions to the world. It's already revealed so much, and it will no doubt continue to unveil more. When the world learns the truth about everything that's happened under the rule of these scum for all these years, the angry people will be enough to drown them all. Clover's expression soured. Every time he remembered how the world government had coldly killed his brother, his hatred consumed him. Let's see how this plays out. I can't believe they would dare try something like this on Garp-san's island. Sol's expression was also filled with frustration. This was expected. At the Revolutionary Army's island, Sorbet Kingdom, Dragon stared coldly at Stelly as he confessed the disaster the Goa Kingdom was about to commit. Let's make a bet. Our Revolutionary Army will appear in this incident. Dragon looked at Kuma, Ivankov, Crocodile, and the rest, and spoke calmly. Isn't it incidents like these that forced your Revolutionary Army to form in the first place? Garp said while yawning. Let's bet on whether you can stop it or not, Dragon. As for whether you'll show up, that's a given. Garp paused for a moment before continuing. If you don't show up, you and your Revolutionary Army are nothing but a joke in the manga, not worth all the hype. Dragon stared at his father for a long moment, then nodded. Alright, let's bet on it. You'll give me Akainu's fortune if my manga counterpart manages to stop the Grey Terminal Inferno. I'll give you half of my fortune if he doesn't. Boa ha ha. Deal. Chapter 795. The Corrupt Goa. Chapter Events. The wind is strong today. Indeed it is, Your Majesty. In the royal palace of the Goa Kingdom, the king was conversing with one of his ministers about a staged incident from the previous night. Accidents can easily happen in such wind. We must ensure there are no unfortunate fires or similar disasters, he added. Very true, Your Majesty. Seibo is missing? Damn, that useless son of mine. Find him. Search the elite district. He won't leave this district that easily. Upon hearing the news of his son's disappearance, Outlook 3 was enraged. A fire at the trash heap tonight? Well, yes, of course, I know about it. What about it? Where did you come from, anyway, little boy? Seibo's expression darkened as he asked another noble, who seemed to know about the fire. Well, yes. I do know about the fire tonight, but I don't think it's something worth making a fuss over. This time, Seibo questioned an elderly noble, hoping for a different answer, but his reply shocked Seibo even more. We wouldn't want the people outside the elite district finding out, now, would we? We are a special breed. If you are from a noble family, you should understand that. Afg. Seibo recoiled and fell backward, feeling as though he was speaking to a madman. Young man.
Over there. Isn't that him? It's the runaway.
Sabo started running as soon as one of the pursuers his father had sent recognized him.
Ace. Luffy. This whole district is insane. They all know these people are going to be killed, yet they carry on with their lives. You have to get out of the trash heap. Tonight, the people of this country are going to try and burn all the filth in the trash heap to the ground. My kingdom of Goa is finished after this chapter. The king of Goa tried to tear apart the manga volume he was reading, but no matter how hard he tried, the volume was indestructible. It was an original. He couldn't believe that such a plan, to burn down the Grey Terminal with all its inhabitants, a scheme many previous generations of kings had thought about but never implemented, was being carried out during his reign. He even saw himself in the manga, fabricating the facts with his minister and making the staged crime appear as a mere fire accident spread by the wind. The young king suddenly seemed older than his manga counterpart at that moment.
The weight of this event on him was unimaginable. The global outcry it would cause was bound to be enormous.
The world will now consider the king of Goa and the nobles living in the elite district as lunatics. What's the difference between them and pirates? They're even worse than pirates.
The king gave his word to the pirate he hired to carry out the task, promising him a noble title. But then he betrayed him, leaving him trapped in the fire he had started. The royal family stared at each other with frightened eyes, as if they could feel the intense anger in the air directed at them. The nobles outside the royal palace were in an even worse state.
Oh my God, is that me? Why am I portrayed as the villain in the manga?
The man who just shouted was the old nobleman Sabo had spoken to earlier. His eyes bulged in shock after recognizing himself in the manga.
Ha ha ha. It doesn't matter. The important thing is I still have another decade to live.
The elderly noble shouted as if he had won the lottery.
Art store, Green Terminal. Why are people cursing us? Did we do anything like that yet?
Don't you see that we personally helped clean up the Grey Terminal in real life?
The manga's reality is entirely different from ours.
Why are you so desperate to tear us apart?
Reality is one thing, and manga is another. We didn't burn anything down in this life.
The Grey Terminal disappeared because of the combined effort of the king and the nobles. I personally spent a fortune supporting the resources for the cleanup. The nobles from the elite district fiercely defended themselves against the emotional readers who nearly tore them to pieces if not for the strict rules inside the art store.
Pigs never change. You think you're nobles just because you're a little wealthier? Or is it because your father was a noble, so you think you are too?
In Mr. Rob's world, there are no nobles or kings.
Everyone is equal. Even if I filed a complaint against the king of Goa and was in the right, I could have him thrown in the central prison.
The era of nobles and social classes is over, you real trash.
This is the world of justice and democracy.
Even the celestial dragons, for whom you committed this atrocious crime, are worth less than an ordinary human in this world. The regular readers erupted in fury, once again provoked by the chapter, reacting just like Sabo, who thought everyone in the elite district was insane. The elite nobles of Goa fell silent, hiding their heads in shame. Even Outlook 3 and his wife were sweating, unable to respond. But what caught their attention most at that moment was something they thought they had forgotten. Something that had to do with the boy named Sabo.
Ohara.
What a world, corrupt to the core.
Foo foo foo.
I love how the master draws the filth of the world.
Heave. Daffy laughed with a wicked expression, perfectly fitting his character.
Just wait, to see how your master will draw your filth, Daffy. You'll see that this is nothing in comparison. Doflamingo felt the weight of his teacher's hand on his shoulder and smiled when he looked into his face.
This is the part I'm most excited about, teacher.
I want to see how far my villain self will go with his cunning, manipulation, and crimes.
You'd love to fight him in the game's world, wouldn't you?
Rob smiled as he read the thoughts of one of his most intriguing students. Seeing this scene and hearing Rob's words, both Matri and Homing grew anxious, their foreheads sweating.
If Rob said that their son's monstrosity exceeded that of the king of Goa and his nobles, that meant Daffy had done things too horrible to overlook or forgive.
Strangely, both Rob and Daffy seemed at peace with it, as if it were nothing. Rob even appeared to be joking, as though it wasn't a big deal, despite the fact that it would make his student hated by the entire world. As for Daffy, he didn't care at all. He even seemed to be eagerly awaiting it. Rosinante and Enel stared in awe at the duo. Ah, my counterpart has done many evil things too. He destroyed an entire island and killed countless souls, but it didn't really affect my reputation. Now I, Enel, am a beloved character that many One Piece fans are eagerly waiting to return. Enel gave his opinion on love or hate from the fans from his perspective. Daffy will be more beloved than you, don't think that just because of his crimes, he'll be hated, Rob replied. Sorbet Kingdom. The fires have already started. They're consuming everything in sight. Why haven't you shown up yet? It seems I've won the bet. Garp said this with an angry expression, even though he should have been happy to win the bet. How could he not be angry? Goa was his home. Seeing this corruption beyond logic made Garp want to crush them all. Dragon stared lifelessly at the flames consuming everything in the gray terminal. This world needs deep reform. Deep enough to reclaim our real world. This world is contaminated with filth. The kind that needs to be burned away. Sabo, my son, I hope I'll see my counterpart save you from the corruption of your world. Chapter 796, I'm so ashamed of being born a noble. Chapter's events. Ace. Luffy. Run. Hurry. Sabo arrived at the large gate separating the burning gray terminal from the inner city. Look. There's still a child who hasn't evacuated. Get him out of there. Sabo's arrival caught the guards' attention, and they quickly moved him out of the way. Sabo collapsed next to a man dressed in a green cloak that covered his entire body except for his face. At that moment, Sabo was crying bitterly, attracting the mysterious man's attention. What's troubling you, boy? Dragon looked curiously at the pathetic child crying before him, wondering what had brought him to this state. Old man. Pant. The ones behind this fire are the royals and the nobles. Pant, you've got to believe me. Sabo, feeling as though he had grasped his last lifeline, poured out everything he had been hiding deep in his heart. There's something in this district that smells worse than the trash heap ever did. The people here are rotten to their core. If I stay here, I'll never be free. Sabo's tears continued to flow as he cried out. I'm so ashamed to have been born a noble. Dragon was shocked, not expecting to hear such words from a child in such a situation. See what you've driven this innocent boy to say. Damn you, Kingdom of Goa. Oh, I understand. I too was born in this country. But even now, I don't have the power to change this land's ways. Dragon felt deep sympathy for the boy from the bottom of his heart. Old man, do you really believe me? Sabo asked. Yes. I won't forget your words. Run. Luffy. Back at the gray terminal, Ace and Luffy were running from the flames that were chasing them. Dragon. Preparations are complete. At that moment, Dragon received the news he had been waiting for. Good. Dragon's response was firm and resolute. Dragon watched the scene unfold, feeling a deep sensation coursing through his body. After realizing what had just happened, he remained silent for a long time. The same went for the other members of the Revolutionary Army, from Garp to Inazuma, who were left speechless. It wasn't just the Revolutionary Army who were shocked, regular readers were also left in greater disbelief than anyone. I'm so ashamed to have been born a noble. For a child to say such words, just how corrupt is the Kingdom of Goa? The Kingdom of Goa needs to be cleansed of these scum today, not tomorrow. The royal family and nobles must be executed one by one, only then will I feel at peace. They all know about the inferno, and they're all happy with it. It's no wonder Sabo feels that living there is unbearable. Of all the people in that place, only Sabo, a mere 10-year-old child, is the natural one.
It's unbelievable. Now that the revolutionary army, led by Dragon-san, has arrived, they'll surely take care of the situation, right? Readers in the kingdom of Sorbet were utterly stunned by Seibo's tearful words to Dragon, which moved them deeply. Most found it hard to believe. They felt exactly what Dragon felt. Disgust at the toxicity of the kingdom of Goa that pushed a young child to such a level of maturity. I, too, will never forget these words for as long as I live. The scene of Seibo's crying and his repeated plea, "Do you really believe me?" was forever engraved in Dragon's eyes at that moment. In the manga, Dragon's answer was, "Yes. I will not forget your words." And just like that, his answer was the same now. Your counterpart has already emerged. As expected, the place where I was born, I didn't expect it to have become this filthy. As Seibo said, their stench is worse than a trash heap, and much thicker. Garp felt a wave of intense anger at that moment, unable to believe he was witnessing such a scene in the land where he had been raised. The king who's supposed to protect his subjects is the one killing them. This world needs more than just one revolutionary army to cleanse it of its deep-rooted corruption. It seems every person there has a little Tenryubito inside them, waiting for the right moment to grow, Crocodile remarked with disgust. No, as long as evil exists, so too does good. As long as the world continues to produce people like Seibo, nothing will remain the same, Dragon replied calmly. I don't know why, but I have this feeling. This Seibo will be a member of our revolutionary army. Dragon's gaze returned to Seibo's tear-streaked face. No, the boy clearly wants to be a pirate. With a nature like Luffy's and Ace's, there's no way you'll convince him otherwise. Boa ha ha. Garp laughed before adding. Someone told your counterpart that the preparations are complete. Maybe you still have a chance to beat me in this bet. In the kingdom of Goa, nobles sitting inside the art store felt embarrassed, and no longer comfortable even in their luxurious chairs. Even the aristocrats, who used private rooms, wiped the sweat from their foreheads at that moment. Seibo's tearful words to Dragon made them instinctively sniff themselves, wondering if they too were emitting a foul odor. Seibo's heartfelt words were like hot knives stabbing directly into their hearts. Even the old man from earlier felt deeply ashamed. Are we really this terrible? This was the collective thought shared by all the nobles who had heard Seibo's words. Some nobles scoffed internally, dismissing it as just the words of a child. But others felt lost, beginning to question and re-evaluate themselves. A few felt as though something dormant within them had suddenly awakened. These nobles, at that precise moment, began seeing the world from a different perspective than they ever had before. Just as Seibo said, the noble's stench is far worse than that of the trash. I agree with him too. If the nobles smell this foul, I wonder what the king of Goa smells like. I bet it's on another level of filth. Oh my god, thank goodness I wasn't born a noble. Poor Seibo, he's stuck with those wretched parents. The reader's comments and words caused the nobles to leave the art store one by one, feeling more humiliated than ever before. Today was the day when the moral value of being noble versus being common was shattered worldwide. Today, nobles were ashamed of calling themselves nobles. This was the true moment when the traditional hierarchy of the kingdoms, passed down for centuries, began to collapse, and the reason was Seibo's words through the One Piece manga. In Batarilla, Rouge covered her mouth in shock at that moment. She didn't expect to see such a strong child in such a state of vulnerability. Wiping away a tear forming at the corner of her eye, Rouge whispered, I'm starting to hate this world in the manga. If Seibo knew the random man he met on the street and said all that to was Luffy's father, how would he feel? Roger smiled as he watched the scene unfold. Of course, he'd be utterly shocked, Gabon responded. But fate sure plays strange tricks, Rayleigh added. If this is how the Revolutionary Army and Seibo are brought together, then surely this boy's future lies with the Revolutionary Army, doesn't it? A noble who hates nobles, wanting to be free. I see him becoming a great asset to your team, Dragon. Chapter 797, Dragon Takes Action. The sky today is pitch black. The king of the Goa kingdom gazed out the window. The dark clouds looked heavy as if they were suffocating anyone who dared to look at them.
From time to time, flashes of lightning danced like dragons across the sky.
It seems like a storm is brewing, Your Majesty. Shall I close the curtains for you?
A servant, the same one who appeared in the manga, hurried to close the curtains to shield the king from the disturbing sight of the burning gray terminal outside. The king noticed this gesture but sank into deep thought.
No, don't. I feel like the sky is angry with me. Leave the curtains open.
The king of Goa moved from his place and stood by the window. The same was true for the other nobles in the elite district, even those who had shyly left the art store earlier. They all shared a sense of dread, as the sudden shift in the weather felt unnatural. Suddenly, strong winds began sweeping through the Goa kingdom, much like the fierce gales that had once accompanied the Straw Hat Pirates' escape from Lode Town. Nobles who didn't make it home in time were swept away by the wind, their fate unknown.
Amidst the unusual atmosphere, a man cloaked in green appeared in the alleyways of Goa. It's their fault they weren't born nobles like you, isn't it? Dragon spoke calmly as he looked down at the manga in his hands. Chapter's events. Father, tell me, why aren't the people living on the trash heap considered humans like us? Why do they have to be burned?
In one noble's home, a little girl innocently asked her father this question. Well, my dear, they are only getting what they deserve, replied the father.
Think of it this way, it's their own fault for not being born into noble families. Oh, I see.
They should have just been born nobles from the start.
How silly of them. The girl quickly understood.
Now, let us speak no more of such filthy things. You have a lot of work to do tomorrow, so why don't you head to bed, suggested the father.
Yes, father. Meanwhile, far from this cozy family scene, those considered subhuman by the nobles were suffering. That way's blocked. The safe ground is shrinking by the minute. Wah wah. Daddy, it's so hot.
I'm so sorry, darling. I'll make sure nothing happens to you.
Just hang on, okay?
The fire consumed everything in sight, including their last hope of survival. Maragoa, the domain of gods. Those wretches, do they really think they're nobles?
What makes them nobles, huh?
Inside the art store, one of the celestial dragons was furious at the arrogance of the Goa nobles, acting as if they were celestial dragons themselves.
Ugh! I'm so angry too.
I want to burn those scum along with their king.
Who gave them the right to call themselves nobles?
Another celestial dragon exploded in rage, disapproving of the idea that these wretches could be classified as nobles. The only true nobles on this earth are us, the celestial dragons. The rest are nothing more than slaves, no better than the trash heap, one shouted angrily. But these wretches have crossed the line.
How dare they treat Luffy and Ace like trash? This is intolerable.
A third celestial dragon expressed concern after seeing Ace and Luffy surrounded by flames from all sides.
Father, let's go to the Goa Kingdom.
I want to teach those nobles who the real nobles are.
Not far away,
a young man eagerly suggested a trip to Goa with his father.
Ah, my son, we cannot go there.
That part of the world belongs to the hunters. The father replied with a sigh of tension.
What? Isn't the whole world ours?
No, my son, the world has already been divided in two. One half is governed by the world government, and the other is controlled by the Hunter Guild.
So we can't teach the Goa nobles a lesson?
I understand your anger, my son, but the mistakes of the Goa nobles are not even on the same level as ours, the celestial dragons. The father was one of those celestial dragons whose conscience had been awakened, much like Saint Mostard after his incident on Fishman Island in the manga.
And strangely, there were many. It wasn't just one or two, but dozens.
This is the real world we've grown accustomed to. Such incidents have been happening for centuries since the fall of the ancient kingdom.
Over time, humans lost even their sense of humanity. This is the main reason for the rise of pirates, class discrimination, and slavery among humans. Isn't this the world we've always known?
This was the world we were used to. Until you, the author of this manga, came along.
Saint Figureland Garling gritted his teeth as he glared at the manga book on the table.
What he regretted most was not being able to fight this man during his rise. Now, he couldn't even dream of standing against him. The regret in his heart was insurmountable.
10 minutes earlier in the Sorbet Kingdom.
"Where are you going, dragon?" Garp asked as he saw his son don his cloak and head toward Rob's personal area.
Dragon stopped and looked at his father. "I'm going to visit my homeland. Don't do anything stupid."
Rob gave you the right to travel using the art store because he trusts you.
"Don't betray that trust," Garp warned. "Don't worry," Dragon replied and continued on his way.
Back in the Goa Kingdom, the people inside the Green Terminal art store had no clue what was happening outside.
They didn't even notice the Revolutionary Army leader, Dragon, leaving the store they were in.
The winds grew stronger, and lightning flashed even more violently. It became unbearable for the king of Goa to look at the sky anymore, as the terror in his heart grew more intense. Just as he was about to close the window and hide inside his palace, a lightning bolt struck from the sky, turning him into charred meat. Countless bolts of lightning fell as if it were the end of the world, each one striking its target with precise accuracy. On this day, the king of Goa and hundreds of nobles died by lightning strikes.
"Now I have the power to change many things in my homeland. You won't have to see a sight like this again, Sabo, at least not in the Goa Kingdom." With these words, Dragon disappeared into the alleyways of the elite district. Far away in Ohara, Rob looked in the direction of the Goa Kingdom with a smile on his face.
"In the manga, you remained inactive for so many years, never staging such a grand display. But now you've made this big show and cut out the roots of corruption before they grew any further.
Is it because you're young and eager, or is it that you no longer see the world government as a threat, or did you do this just to send a message?"
Rob smiled as he said this. He knew what Dragon had just done because it was within the domain of the art store's influence. In fact, he had helped disable one of the art store's features, the life-saving feature for customers, which would have instantly transported anyone holding an original manga volume and wearing the art store community bracelet to the nearest art store at the moment their life was in danger. Hundreds of nobles held original one-piece volumes and wore the art store community bracelets, but by temporarily disabling this feature, Dragon had been able to carry out a seamless execution.
"I didn't like those nobles people either, huh?" Rob laughed as he looked toward the horizon. Chapter 798, Ace Awakens the Conqueror's Haki. What do you think of this scenario? I think it makes sense.
There's no better time or reason for him to awaken this power.
So, you weren't surprised?
Oh, I was definitely surprised, but not too much.
Wah-aha!
After all, he's my son.
Wah-aha!
Still, it's funny to see him at this size and wielding such power.
Even I didn't awaken it at his age.
At that moment, everyone inside the art store in Batarilla was left speechless by the scene that unfolded in the manga.
Of course, the exception was Roger and his crew, who admired the scene instead of being shocked. How could they not?
They were used to surprises.
Something like this wasn't shocking to them, it seemed only logical.
Ace, it seems at this particular point in your life, you realized you've gained people who truly love you for who you are. Roger smiled as he watched the manga scenes unfold.
Chapters events. That's right. All Sabo ever wanted was to be free.
Luffy bit the pirate who had grabbed him as he shouted those words.
Aga! Damn brat!
The pirate screamed in pain, quickly drawing his sword in anger and slashing at Luffy.
Luffy! Seeing this, Ace couldn't hold back.
I'll kill you.
The pirate wasn't satisfied with just striking Luffy.
He was ready to deliver a killing blow.
Don't you dare touch Luffy!
In that critical moment, a mysterious force erupted from Ace, knocking out the pirate who intended to slaughter Luffy and the rest of the surrounding pirates, except for Blue Jam, who stood shocked as his entire crew collapsed.
What did you just do, you filthy little urchin?
Blue Jam pressed down on Ace with his foot, screaming, and pulled out his gun.
Ace? Stop! Luffy felt terrified because Blue Jam was really about to kill Ace. But before he could pull the trigger, a sudden powerful attack came out of nowhere. Though unexpected, Blue Jam managed to block the axe with his sword. "Give it up already, you stinking pirate! Get your hands off our Ace!" Dayton shouted after knocking Blue Jam away from Ace. "Dayton!" Luffy was stunned to see Dayton and her gang at that moment. "What are you all doing here?" Dayton sat there in a secluded corner of the relaxation area at the art store in Amazon Lily. Saying she was embarrassed to return to Fusha was nonsense. The truth was she had gotten completely absorbed in the details of this volume, not wanting to take her eyes off it for even a second. "That's my boy." Watching Ace unknowingly unleash his Conqueror's Haki at the crucial moment to save Luffy from certain death, a wide smile appeared on Dayton's face. "This, as expected from myself." Yet her eyes filled with tears the moment her counterpart appeared and saved Ace from death in turn. "I won't let you harm our Ace." She clenched her delicate hand into a fist as she reacted to the chapter's events as if she were part of that nightmarish moment in the manga. "Ha! Why run away right after saving them? Isn't that just Blue Jam? Why fear him? No, maybe it's because of the flames surrounding the battlefield, right?" Watching Dayton attempt to flee after rescuing Luffy and Ace, Dayton realized it wasn't the time for delays in such situations. But Ace wouldn't run from a fight no matter the reason, would he? She smiled when she saw her prediction come true, her grin widening as Dayton decided to stay back with Ace to fight Blue Jam as well. So, this is when the kid first awakened this power, booahaha. Who would have thought that the scene from the Summit War had a mirrored history too? In the kingdom of Sorbet, after Dragon left, Garp was in charge at the moment. Watching the current events, Garp felt the development was fitting. "Hi ha! I thought Dragon-san would be the one to step in and save Luffy and Ace, and wipe out the arrogant Blue Jam." Ivankov felt disappointed that Dayton's bandits were the ones to intervene instead of the Revolutionary Army personally. Especially since they weren't far from the scene. "Let me tell you something." Dragon could sense it, and he could have intervened at any moment, but he chose not to because he felt it wasn't his place to interfere. Garp spoke seriously, confident in his judgment. After this event, the two boys will grow into mighty forces. It's moments like these that turn boys into men. Fighting real pirates at such a young age, this is an opportunity they couldn't afford to miss. Garp added. "So, did he feel Ace's Conqueror's Haki?" asked Bonnie, tilting her small head in confusion. "Wah-aha! Absolutely. You're the boss of those ruffians from Mount Kalbo." Blue Jam recognized Dayton. "I'm Dayton the Bandit. And for better or worse, I happen to be the guardian of these brats." Dayton sounded confident, but in the next moment, she activated Usopp mode. "Now then. Run for it," she exclaimed. "Yes, boss." One of the bandits grabbed Luffy, while another reached for Ace to pull him back. "Hurry up, Ace." But Ace stopped him. "I won't run." His eyes were locked onto Blue Jam. "Men. You take Luffy and go on ahead," Dayton said. "Boss?" Her men were shocked. "I'll take full responsibility for Ace and make sure he gets back safe and sound," she said. "Now go." "Why yes, boss." "You'd better be coming back, boss, you hear me? A woman and a child." Blue Jam sneered, realizing his end would be even more pathetic than he had imagined. If you start getting overconfident just because you're a little handy in a fight, you could end up a bloody mess. The only people who survive on the battlefield are the strong and the cowards. The brave meet with early deaths. That's just how this world works. Those were Blue Jam's words to the pair. "It's comforting to see my son isn't fighting alone." In Batarilla, Rouge felt a sense of relief seeing Ace stand shoulder to shoulder with Dayton against Blue Jam. At least he wasn't fighting alone, she thought. But, the words of that filthy pirate have some truth to them. Honestly, she didn't like her son's reckless nature, and his refusal to back down from a confrontation no matter the situation. In such a position, acting wisely would be safer. The flames surround the battlefield, and only Dayton knows a safe path to retreat, but that path won't last long if you delay your fight with this man. Rouge sighed as she moved on to the next scenes.
This. Her eyes widened in shock as she saw what happened next. From the sky, a mysterious force descended, parting the sea of flames and creating a path for those who had lost hope, surrounded by fire from all sides. That's why this power exists, to save people from the depths of despair.
Is this what the Revolutionary Army stands for?
Inside the art store in Green Terminal, an inconspicuous man sat sweating in the corner. He appeared to be a man in his 30s. Before the era of manga, he had lived in the Grey Terminal as a rising pirate. But when the art store first appeared, he blended in with the homeless and hungry people, receiving shelter and food from the store. Over time, he abandoned the idea of becoming a pirate and completely gave up his wicked thoughts. With the rapid prosperity of the Green Terminal, he soon found a stable job, started a family, and began living happily. But when he thought today would be just another great day because of the latest volume, he was hit hard when he saw a completely different version of himself. It was Blue Jam, the pirate who once dreamed of becoming a noble, even if it meant sacrificing everything. The reason for his sweating now was the fear that someone might connect him to his manga counterpart.
Damn it! Why won't you just die already?
I hope Ace manages to tear you apart.
Blue Jam became the first character in history to want his own counterpart in the manga to die. Chapter 799, The Revolutionary Army. Chapter's events. Damn it! It's no good. We're completely surrounded. It's so hot. There's nowhere left to run. Why did this have to happen? Wah! Hundreds of survivors were trapped amidst the flames, suffering in the depths of despair, whether they were elders, children, or even adults.
At that moment, some of them saw strong winds parting the dense flames, creating a wide path through the inferno, even carving a massive trail into the ground.
Ha! Where did this path come from? Some kind of explosion just opened up a clear way.
The inhabitants of the Grey Terminal felt as though they were dreaming.
I can see a ship at the end. This path leads straight to the coast.
I don't know where it came from, but it's a miracle, no doubt. At the end of the path formed by Dragon, a Revolutionary Army ship stood proudly.
On board, Ivankov marveled. I'm rather surprised you had informants in such a remote corner of East Blue. Do you have some personal connection to this place?
Dragon ignored Ivankov's question and instead replied, "This country is a smaller version of what the future world will look like. There can be no happiness in a world where those deemed unnecessary are weeded out and eliminated. One day, I will change this world, mark my words." Recalling Seibo's words, he continued.
Even a rotten land like this can still produce innocent children.
He gazed at the men, women, and children who had escaped the flames and gathered before his ship. Raising his arm high in a clenched fist, he shouted, "Those of you who wish to fight for freedom, board my ship."
At that moment, it was raining in the kingdom of Goa. In the center of the noble city, Dragon stood like a statue.
Moments earlier, he had shocked the king of Goa and hundreds of nobles to death, uprooting the decaying roots of corruption in this kingdom. The sound of thunder drowned out the screams of the shocked servants after witnessing their masters struck down by lightning, but none of it fazed Dragon, who was drawn back into the events of the manga. This scene had a unique significance to him.
So this is my revolutionary army in the manga? Those of you who wish to join me in a battle for freedom, board my ship. These are good words, enough to explain everything. Dragon's eyes traced the next scenes.
Seeing the king lying asleep, indifferent to what had been done, Dragon felt he had killed him too easily. This filthy king, it seems even Rob didn't want to draw his dirty face. Dragon closed his manga volume and began walking away from that rotten place, heading back to the art store. Upon his return to Sorbet, he would announce to the world what he had done here and take full responsibility. The Revolutionary Army was no longer a small force, it had become a power that the world government had to take seriously.
Dressrosa Kingdom. Is this the kingdom of Goa? What a disgrace!
King Riku felt how insignificant and petty the king of Goa seemed, especially after seeing him sleep soundly after what he had done to his people.
Father, does that bastard even deserve to be called a king?
Viola, too, was filled with sorrow for the children who cried amidst the flames. At that moment, she shared Seibo's feelings, pitying him. Not all nobles and kings are like that, my dear.
I know my little girl is a kind-hearted princess.
King Riku hugged his daughter gently and lovingly, trying to ensure she didn't take Seibo's words too much to heart.
It's okay, father. I'm smart. I can see that there is both good and evil in this world. Viola smiled as she said this. Hearing his daughter's reply, King Riku felt relieved.
The Revolutionary Army is built on a strong political foundation. Seeing how Dragon had welcomed the people that the kingdom of Goa considered trash to be burned, King Riku could say that Dragon had won the unshakable loyalty of hundreds of people in an instant. This wasn't just King Riku's opinion. Many kings, whether similar in nature to the king of Goa or his opposite, shared the same thought. So, this is how the Revolutionary Army operates. Saving the homeless and abandoned people from their countries. I don't know whether to praise him or despise him. But one thing is certain, he's clever and a master manipulator, as well as incredibly patient. That much is to his credit. In Marigoa, the 5 elders felt bitter as they watched these scenes unfold. The details they had always despised were exactly what Dragon and his revolutionary army had exploited year after year, leading them to become the terrifying threat they were in the manga. Suddenly, a particular den mushi began ringing.
After a brief delay, Saturn answered the call. What is it, Kong?
Kong hurried to speak, knowing that the 5 elders despised being interrupted during their manga reading time. My apologies, Saint Saturn, but I've received important news from the Kingdom of Goa that you must hear immediately. Upon hearing this, the 5 elders looked at each other calmly before Saturn gestured for Kong to continue.
I've received a confidential report from the Kingdom of Goa stating that Dragon, the leader of the Revolutionary Army, attacked the kingdom and killed the king and all the nobles in an instant. What? The 5 elders were in utter shock at that moment. This is impossible. How did this happen? Does this mean the hunters allowed this to happen? Saint Saturn was stunned as he reached this realization.
After all, the Kingdom of Goa was under the influence of the Hunters Guild. No one could be killed there without the hunters knowing.
This news has been confirmed by multiple agents stationed near the art store close to the Kingdom of Goa.
After the sudden storm cleared, only charred corpses of those targeted by Dragon remained. The servants are in a state of terror, and the hunters have just arrived to clean up after Dragon, who has already left. Hearing the full story, Emu, who was sitting quietly on the throne, smiled.
Fufu, so that's how it is.
I didn't expect the leader of the Revolutionary Army to act on his emotions.
Does he not know that killing people based on what they've done in the manga is already forbidden? Or does the Revolutionary Army simply not care about the rules between us and the hunters, as they're a third party in this conflict? How interesting. Emo cracked her knuckles with a smile on her face. It would have been even more interesting if the Kingdom of Goa had been under our influence. Ohara,
Vegapunk, Clover, Brook, Isho, and the others looked at the remains of the fire that had completely consumed the gray terminal with somber eyes.
They were expecting to find many bodies to clean up, weren't they?
Well, too bad for them, Dragon exists in this world.
He's made their job easier and lighter. If Rob didn't exist in this world, I think I would have been very happy to join Dragon-san.
Isho's words caused a significant shock among the listeners.
Would you really have done that?
Mihawk narrowed his eyes as he asked. If I had known what the Revolutionary Army was doing in this place and similar ones, I would have definitely joined their cause, Isho confirmed his words.
Well, I bet you'll be part of the Marines when you first appear in the manga, Fufu. Daffy laughed as he said this. Part of the Marines? That's possible, too.
Before meeting Rob, I had considered joining the Marines to fight against evil and chaos.
But who would have expected that the greatest evil in the world is protected by the Marines as its shield? Fufu, you're quite a righteous man, Isho-san. Chapter 800, The Celestial Dragon Destroys Seibo's Ship. Chapter Events. Ace. Luffy. Are you both safe, right? I miss you both so much. This place feels like a birdcage.
Inside his noble family's palace, Sabo silently muttered to himself. He stared through the window, now boarded with wooden planks to prevent his escape, just as he used to do in the past. I don't think I can endure a life surrounded by the stench of these people. What is freedom, really? Where can I find it? At that moment, Sabo seriously started contemplating becoming a pirate and setting out to sea. Today marks the arrival of the world nobles in the Goa kingdom, traveling all the way from the Grand Line.
Preparations were in full swing for a grand ceremony to honor their arrival.
Suddenly, a crowd of nobles noticed a small vessel departing out to sea, shocking them all.
Wait! Someone's sailing a boat out to sea. Get back here. You're in the way of the ceremony. Is that a fishing boat? I can see a child on board. A child? Whose child is that? Can anyone tell?
The nobles were utterly baffled.
Meanwhile, Sabo was in high spirits, feeling the excitement of sailing today. What beautiful weather! The perfect day to head out to sea. Sabo gripped his hat as he declared this.
His pirate flag fluttered in the breeze, emblazoned with an S over two crossed bones.
In the manga, the Goa kingdom and its nobles were preparing to celebrate the arrival of the celestial dragons. However, in this reality, the Goa kingdom and its nobles were preparing to cross the Yellow River.
Dragon sent them to the afterlife in one swift motion, and now he wished to send them on their way once more. In the Sorbet kingdom, Dragon stared with deep hatred at the manga scenes he had just caught up on.
He's just a child.
Why such cruelty, he said, gritting his teeth.
This is unbearable.
Garp had a similar reaction to the scene from the manga, though he appeared more distracted by what he had just learned.
Tell me that what you did in Goa was just a joke. Right? I wiped them all out. Why would I joke about something like that? Dragon confirmed the truth. Garp's brow twitched upon hearing this. Pa! Why the hell did you do that? That's mass genocide. What were you thinking? Are you insane?
Garp's eyes burned with rage as he glared at Dragon, who remained unmoved by his actions. Crocodile, Ivankov, Kuma, Bonnie, and Inazuma all stared at Dragon with expressions of utter shock that they could not hide. It felt like the shock of a lifetime for them. Not that those nobles didn't deserve death, but they never expected Dragon to take the initiative and eradicate them all in one decisive move.
I've always wanted to do this.
I grew up there, dealing with those rotten nobles, all of them corrupt to the core with no hope of change. Sabo's words helped me remember an old promise I made to myself when I was just a kid. Back then, after being beaten by a noble over a loaf of bread, I swore I would kill them all one day. It turns out today is that day.
Dragon looked deeply into his father's furious eyes before adding.
As the leader of the Revolutionary Army, I've decided to cleanse my hometown of its filth. The Goa kingdom will no longer be a kingdom for nobles, but for the people from now on. Of course, before I acted, I asked Rob for permission. Hearing this, Garp's tense brow softened slightly. Yet, despite that, his anger did not subside in the least. Killing so many people, whether they were nobles or commoners, good or bad, was a grave crime, one he did not wish to see his son commit.
My duty as the Revolutionary Army leader is to take responsibility for my actions. The next massacre I'll commit will be against them.
Dragon pointed at the celestial dragons who mercilessly destroyed Sabo's ship, shattering the dreams of an innocent child whose only crime was wanting to be free. Seeing this, Garp felt sadness creeping in, his anger slowly fading away. Eventually, he sighed in sorrow.
You're the leader. You can do as you wish. They shot the fishing boat.
The nobles of Goa witnessed the celestial dragon blowing up Sabo's ship without mercy.
Sabo! Dogyura cried out in alarm at the sight. Is the kid all right? He angered the Tenryubito. Ugh! The boat's on fire. Why did they do that all of a sudden? Sabo struggled desperately to extinguish the flames engulfing his small boat, but it was no use. Saint Jelmac! There's a child on board.
One of the celestial dragon's guards tried to save Sabo, but it didn't stop the celestial dragon from firing another shot. He was flying a pirate flag. That makes him a pirate, child, or not? And besides, that filthy commoner had the nerve to obstruct my ship. This time, Sabo's ship was blown to pieces in the sea. Sabo's flag burned along with his hat. Hey! What was that ship just now? This is the day of the grand ceremony. We can't possibly afford to displease the Tenryubito. Move the boat wreckage out of their way, quickly. Marihoa, the domain of the gods. At that moment, the celestial dragons stared at the scene in silent shock, especially Saint Jelmac, who wasn't sure whether to cry or laugh. I killed Sabo. No, my counterpart killed Sabo. This is unbelievable. Saint Jelmac's angry and stunned voice snapped the celestial dragons out of their stupor. You fool! Why would you do something so inhumane? Do you realize the mistake you've made? You killed Sabo without mercy. Sabo was Luffy and Ace's brother. Oh my god. So that's why Sabo hasn't appeared since the beginning of the manga. Turns out that scum Jelmac killed him. And for what? Just because he sailed near your ship? Damn you. Stop it, all of you. Why are you cursing me? I'm just as furious with my counterpart as you are. I have no idea how this happened. Saint Jelmac felt wronged. He genuinely wanted to see his counterpart in the manga, but not like this. To be the main culprit in killing one of the key characters, and even one of his personal favorites, hurt him deeply. Seeing the commotion among the celestial dragons, the holy knights were speechless. Don't you think, fellows, that they're slowly forgetting their true nature? Garling looked at his holy knights and said with a mocking smile. What did he do to deserve such a fate? In O'Hara, Robin tried to hold back her tears, but she couldn't. She looked at her father with a pained expression and asked. He did nothing. He just wanted to escape the birdcage and fly free. Dad, I hate the celestial dragons. Do such ugly creatures really exist in our world? She asked, tears welling up in her eyes. Rob gently wiped her tears and said, No, my dear, such hideous creatures don't exist in our world. As far as I'm concerned, they were sentenced to oblivion long ago. Hearing this, Robin's sweet smile returned to her face. That's a relief. So, when Sabo is reborn, he'll be free, right? Rob nodded with a smile. Yes, he'll be free and happy. In Batarilla, Rouge felt overwhelming sadness when she saw this scene. She didn't notice it until the tears began to flow. Why? Just, why does this world keep destroying everything pure? Suddenly, as she wept, she felt a strange warmth in her belly, as if it was releasing a comforting sensation. Ace? Rouge was surprised by this new feeling, something she had never felt, not even with Ace. When she focused a bit, she noticed her belly was heavier than it had been the day before. This can't be right. When she used observation hockey to scan her womb, she almost fainted from the shock. She discovered she was pregnant with 2 instead of 1. That wraps up this part of What If Becoming a Mangaka in One Piece World. Thanks so much for listening. As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well. See you in the next one.